Hey everyone, it's Connor. If you like what you hear on the podcast today, be sure to check out toplevelsports.net for all my sports analysis. Thanks and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Top Level Sports Podcast. The Golden State Warriors entered the NBA Finals as heavy favorites and backed it up with two convincing wins at home, 113-91 in Game 1 and 132-113 in Game 2. Now the series heads to Cleveland with LeBron James and company facing a 2-0 deficit. Can they stay competitive, or will the Warriors sweep through the entire playoffs? Here to break it down with me is Rish Bhatnagar.
Hey Connor, thanks for having me.
Yep, no problem. And I'm Connor Groel, your host today. And Rish, just like me, you went Warriors in 5 in your finals prediction. Looks pretty good so far. How are your feelings about your prediction?
I'm feeling pretty good. I picked the Warriors in 5 because I think the two games that the Cavs had the best chance to win were games 1 and game 3. We all know what happened in game 1, so it all comes down to game 3 for the Cavs.
And if not, you're thinking they might just get swept?
I'm thinking it.
That'd be pretty crazy. So the NBA Finals, again, the Warriors started Vegas favorites 2-1 to 3-1. That was about the range. And then two strong wins to open it up, leading the series 2-0 right now. And again, LeBron's played really well in the first couple games. But the main problems for the Cavaliers in Game 1 were their turnovers and their offensive rebounding. Again, the turnover differential was 20-4, and then the Warriors were able to get a lot of good second looks. But in Game 2, the Cavs fixed those problems, and they turned the turnover differential, kind of on its head. The Warriors were the ones committing 20 turnovers, the Cavs only 9, and offensive rebounds were still even. But the Warriors were still able to have a big, convincing win in the game. So what do you think? Like, the Cavs kind of fixed their problems in Game 1 and they fixed them for Game 2, but they still got killed. So what do you think they should be trying to do for Game 3?
Well, honestly, there's not really too much. Like, last year when they played games 5, 6, and 7, they were missing Draymond Green for 1 and Andrew Bogut, which was the main one, for the last 2 games.
Right.
So whenever the Warriors played small, they were lacking the interior presence, and they just let LeBron James just run all over them on the inside in the post. Now, when they play a small ball, they have Kevin Durant as their 5, who's like a 7-foot towering point guard, or
I know.
Moves like point guard, who can neutralize LeBron James at least enough to where the Warriors can keep up. So
the thing is now, LeBron James is pretty much always being guarded by either Kevin Durant, who's the second best player in the game, if you think LeBron's the best player in the game. Even by the end of the series, people might think Kevin Durant's the best player in the game.
He's definitely played like it the first 2 games.
Definitely. Or Draymond Green, who's probably Defensive Player of the Year, right? And even if, for some reason, those 2 guys aren't on him, it could be Andre Iguodala, who shut down LeBron James in the 2015 NBA Finals and then ended up winning Finals MVP, or even Klay Thompson, a great defender. So the Warriors just have great defenders. And I think one of the things for the Cavaliers is LeBron James has still had 2 great finals games. Game 1 and Game 2 for him, putting up great numbers, just like you would expect from him. But the rest of the team really hasn't stepped it up. So who do you think needs to get it going for the Cavaliers?
It's got to be J.R. Smith. Like, these stats are horrendous. This game, he played only 14 minutes, went 0 of 2 from the field. He was basically a non-factor. Game 1, really not that much better. 28 minutes of play, only 4 shots. So part of that may be him deferring to LeBron, Kyrie, or Kevin Love, but he needs to take more shots. Like, for example, in games 5, 6, and 7 of last year's finals, he went 3 of 9 in Game 5, 5 of 11 in Game 6, and 5 of 13 in Game 7. Those aren't like great stats, but at least he's shooting and he's taking threes, and those threes can come at important times, and he can make an impact on the game. Right now, what the Cavs lack and the Warriors have is like scoring ability. So these players need to step up, and LeBron needs to get more help.
Yeah, I agree. They need to get it coming from different people. Kevin Love has had a really great start to these finals, just as he's been great in the playoffs. And again, LeBron James has been great. But I think Kyrie Irving definitely struggled shooting the ball in Game 2. And in Game 1, he had a pretty good scoring game, but wasn't really able to affect the game in other ways, like his passing specifically. So Kyrie Irving, he had a solid Game 1, but the problem is even when Kyrie Irving is playing solid games, the Cavs aren't going to be able to beat the Warriors. Kyrie Irving is the number 2 option on the team. And he's someone like, again, the huge shot he hit to win the finals last year in Game 7 at the end of the game. And some of the big performances he's had in the finals and the playoffs in his last couple years. We haven't really seen that from him so far in the series. And again, if you're the Cavs and you're going up against the best team ever, potentially, probably even, you're going to need to be able to get it going from one of your star players. And then another player is Tristan Thompson, right? He's one of my keys. He was one of my keys to the series. I know you thought so as well. And he really hasn't been offensive, getting it going on offense. Only a couple offensive rebounds in each game. I believe he didn't score in Game 1, only 8 points in Game 2. So he's really been struggling as well.
You can't have your center get only 4 rebounds in a game. That's definitely not a key to success.
Yeah. Especially when you consider that he averaged triple doubles in both the 20, or not triple doubles, I'm sorry, but he averaged double doubles in the 2015 and the 2016 NBA Finals. And so far, he hasn't been able to have near that same impact. And now with the addition of guys like Kevin Durant and Draymond Green, who's been rebounding the ball, very well, the Cavs, they have not been able to get as many rebounds, and they fell behind in that area in Game 2.
Yeah, and another thing that makes this thing so daunting is the fact that in Game 2, Draymond Green couldn't even play for a lot of the second half because he got his 5th foul with like 4 minutes into the second half.
Yeah.
And he only played 25 minutes, which is like absolutely nothing for a star player. So it was basically Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson beating the Cavaliers.
Yeah, and it's something to say for the Warriors because they are a much deeper team, I feel. Like even if Draymond Green gets in foul trouble, they just send Andre Iguodala off the bench. And Andre Iguodala, again, he's a Finals MVP. He's made several All-Star games. He's a great player. He is one of the 5 best players on the Warriors. They just like to have Zaza Pachulia, starting off each half, but then they'll bring in Andre Iguodala midway through the first and the third quarters usually. They also have guys, Sean Livingston, who's another solid defender. He plays his role very well. He has that, that kind of mid-range jump shot or mid-range post shot. And then you have other guys. Ian Clark's a great shooter. JaVale McGee, who's bringing the energy at all times. They've even been able to dig even a little deeper and bring in like Pat McCaw and McAdoo to play a couple minutes through these finals. Whereas the Cavs, their bench, they have Deron Williams coming off the bench, Channing Frye, Kyle Korver, but they haven't really done much, and that's a place they really need to improve if they want to, stay alive in the series, right?
Yeah, they've been playing their bench players, but zero impact. Like Darren Williams hasn't made a shot yet.
Yeah. And
Kyle Korver is playing a lot of minutes. He played 20 in Game 1, and he played 23 in Game 2, and he's only made 2 shots. And one of them was a 3.
Yeah, he got it going a little more in Game 2, but, not the impact you need at all if you want to try to stay competitive with a team like the Warriors.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the way LeBron James built this team at the start of the year was to compete with the Warriors. He got a bunch of 3-point specialists, and they just have not pulled it through.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Cavs actually, I believe, made more threes than the Warriors this year, and they shot a better percentage as well, just slightly. It was like 39 to 38%. But with all those shooters, it hasn't really worked out in Game 2. Especially in Game 2, the Warriors made like 17 threes. They shot over 40%, and the Cavs shot nowhere near that percentage from 3. And here's the thing with Game 2 especially. When you're playing the Warriors, they're such a great team that sometimes you're just not going to be able to beat them no matter what you do. Like the Cavs definitely had some problems in some areas in Game 2, especially, defensively, you can't allow 130, however many points they allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you look at the Warriors, Steph Curry dropped a triple-double. He wasn't even the best player on the Warriors that game. It was Kevin Durant, who another almost 30 points, affecting the game in all kinds of ways. He had 5 blocks, a couple on LeBron, 3 steals. Klay Thompson finally got his jump shot going. He hit 22 points off 8 of 12 shooting. Good for him to see that. Then Steve Kerr returned to the sidelines as their coach. Now they even have their coach back. It seemed like everything was going right for the Warriors, and if you're the Cavs, you can't really beat them in games like that.
Yeah, what do you think about that third quarter point differential, though? Because if you look at the first 2 games, the first halves were actually not that bad. Like, if you look at Game 1, the Cavs came out of the first quarter on fire, and then in the third quarter in both games, it just kind of collapsed.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. the Cavaliers were able to outscore the Warriors in the second quarter of Game 2. That was the only quarter so far in the series that the Cavs have outscored the Warriors. But in both first halves, they were able to keep things close. I believe they were both single point differentials at halftime. And what I think is the games go into the second half, and the Warriors are the greatest third quarter team like ever. If you look at their stats this year, the last couple years. Teams can stay close to the Warriors usually for a half. Sometimes teams are ahead at halftime. But the Warriors have a way of just coming out with so much energy in the third quarter, and they just wear you down because they do play so fast. They have so much talent all across the floor that eventually it just feels it's almost inevitable that they're going to get on a run, and at some point the other team's not going to be able to answer their runs.
Yeah, like Steph's dribble masterpiece against LeBron was one of the key moments that stood out to me. Also, Kevin Durant on both ends of the floor. He blocked Kevin Love and then drove all the way back and hit this insane circle shot.
I remember that, yeah.
Off the glass, and everyone was just like, wow. And the commentators just blown up.
No, yeah, and it's just things like that. Like the Cavs and the Warriors make those plays routinely, and it's almost crazy to say that, but they do. And the Cavaliers, however, they were able to, have some strong answers in the first halves of each one of these games. But again, if it just keeps happening time and time and time again, the Cavs are a great offensive team, but they aren't always going to be able to, keep up that intensity and be able to match the high-powered offense of the Warriors. So what I think is more important for the Cavaliers heading into games 3 and 4 is to try to control the pace a little more and try to make sure that the Warriors try to, first of all, be able to prevent the Warriors from getting second chance opportunities, but then also being able to rebound the ball well and be able to set up your fast breaks while preventing the Warriors from going on their fast breaks. Because that's a very important thing. Yeah. When the Warriors are getting fast break points, they're almost unstoppable. And for the Cavaliers, a good way to try to counteract that is by getting out and running themselves and having that advantage.
Yeah, LeBron looked gassed in the third quarter.
Yeah, you saw him on the sidelines. And, again, he's such a great player, but if he feels like he has to do it all by himself, so on one end of the floor, he's, being guarded by Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant blocks him, and then back down on the other end, he tries to, there's a pick and roll situation, and he gets put on Steph Curry, and Steph puts on this dribbling masterpiece and is able to get to LeBron's chasing him around for a good 10 seconds at least, and then Steph Curry gets an easy layup. It's just, at some point, you just think to yourself, how do you beat these guys?
And what people forget, because you see all these news stories about LeBron skipping games, he led the NBA in minutes per game. Like, he was going like 32, 33 minutes a game throughout the regular season, and that I think it's adding up in the finals here.
Yeah, I think so. Like, he just has a ridiculous amount of minutes logged throughout the course of the season. And the thing is, it's kind of interesting because the Cavaliers did have a long break. They had a week between the conference finals and the finals. But maybe when you're just someone that's logged all these minutes throughout your career, and then you play a team like the Warriors that are always wanting to run, and there was an important time in Game 2 where the Warriors had a fast break and it led to an easy Klay Thompson dunk, and you saw the entire Cavs team in the backcourt just walking up, and they didn't even see it coming. So they haven't really been able to match the energy. But I don't think we can put it all on LeBron James because, as we've said,
he's missing people.
He's missing people.
Where's Darren Williams at? Where's Kyle Korver at?
Right, they're not injured, but they're on the court and they're not able to make that impact that you're expecting them to. And when the Warriors have that depth and they have the players on the bench that can provide, you'll have situations where you'll have Sean Livingston in the game and Iguodala in the game, and even say a guy like Pat McCaw in the game, and they're able to hold the Cavs where the Cavs can't reduce the deficit, and they're able to hold steady for a couple of minutes. And that's all the time they need for guys like Curry and Durant to be rested. So if you're the Cavs, you already feel like there's a big challenge, ahead of you. And then you see Curry and Durant re-enter the game, and then things get serious. And that's when, you get in these third and the fourth quarters where even though both games were close in the first half, you get to a point where in the fourth quarter, LeBron James and Kyrie Irving come out of the game because the Cavs concede. There's facing a 20-point deficit, 4 or 5 minutes left, and they're not really competitive at the end of the games.
Yeah, that's extra rest that Curry and Thompson are getting. So what do you think, Connor? Is the series already over?
So no. I'm going to stick with my original prediction. I'm going to keep with the the Warriors in 5. I think the Cavs are going to come out in game 3, and I think it's going to be a closely contested game. But I think the Cavs are going to give it, they're going to give it everything they have. Because if you're LeBron James and you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, you come back to your home court, you need to get a victory. You're not going to get swept by the Warriors. It's terrible for the game. It's terrible. People will say all kinds of things about LeBron James. I think the whole team, Tyronn Lue's got to instill it, and LeBron James have to instill it in them. They have to bring it 110%. I think shots need to fall. I think they're going to need to start making more three-pointers, and they're going to have to start playing better on-ball defense on the Warriors and try to prevent the crazy sequences where the Warriors just pass it from person to person to person and get these wide-open dunks and easy looks. I think they'll be able to do it something like 110 to 106 or something. I think it'll be a close game because it's not going to be blowouts like Game 5, I believe. It might have been Game 5 or like Game 4 in last year's finals. The Cavs beat the Warriors by 30 points. There will be no 30-point victories for the Cavaliers in these finals, especially with the addition of Kevin Durant. So it's going to be difficult. But I do think the Warriors will come back tough. And I think they'll take a game in Cleveland. I think they'll wrap things up in Game 5. But even if they don't win any games in Cleveland, all the Warriors have to do is not lose at home and they win the series.
Yeah, for me, technically it's not over because they are 2-0 down, but they lost both those games on the road. So they are coming home. They haven't lost home court advantage yet. But it still kind of feels like this series is getting to its conclusion because in Cleveland, they lost their one game in Cleveland, Game 3 against the Celtics. Yeah. So if that's not a warning sign enough, the Warriors are looking to end this quickly. They got pretty embarrassed last year, right?
They don't want to face another 3-1 situation. They want it done in 4. I don't think the Warriors are really going to blow another 3-1 lead.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be pushing harder and harder. So they're going to come out Game 3 firing. And like I said, this is Game 3 right here. If they don't win this game, Game 4 is like complete desperation. Like that's why I'm giving the Cavs a little bit of a shot.
And there's just no hope if you're down 3-0. But as you were saying earlier, you said games 1 and 3 were the Cavs' best chances, and I agree with that a lot. In Game 3, this is really the time where if you want to try to make this a series, this is the time.
Yeah, they need to step up and show what they're worth because right now I'm not really seeing any way because they definitely can't beat the Warriors by playing small because Kevin Durant's the biggest player on the court now.
Yeah, but that's kind of the interesting thing though because if you have Kevin Love and you have Tristan Thompson, playing on the floor at the same time, or if you have guys like Richard Jefferson, it just becomes a matter of if you can have size and that can give you a rebounding advantage. But then how are you going to be able to space the floor on defense and try to match up with the Warriors? Because they have 4 all-star caliber or even MVP caliber players that, will all play on the 3-point line on the outside. And how are the Cavs going to be able to spread their defense and kind of match up with that?
Yeah, and especially when Curry, Thompson, Iguodala, Durant, and Green are on the floor, all 5 of those guys can shoot threes. So you want Tristan Thompson to come out here and try and guard Draymond Green, right. Or if they set a pick and roll and Tristan as a Steph Curry,
right? It's already over. But then you try to match that. You put out a guy like Channing Frye, but Channing Frye also he's not really a defender that he can hit threes and he's great in that role. But on defense, he just becomes a liability, and that's how you see the Warriors score like 130 points in the game.
Yeah, so we've kind of talked about how the Warriors are really good and how they've been solid.
It seems kind of basic, but that's really the end of this, the end of the story. Games 1 and 2 of last year's finals, the Warriors also had easy wins, right? But there was still the variables of Steph Curry might not have been 100%, and then you had Draymond Green suspension, you had Andrew Bogut's injury,
which I think was probably more important than Draymond Green suspension.
I actually would agree with that. And now none of those variables are in play, at least not yet as far as injuries or suspensions are concerned. And now you add in another MVP, you add in Kevin Durant. And I'm sticking with Warriors in 5. Are you as well?
Yeah, but I also think the Warriors have a pretty decent chance of sweeping.
All right.
So we've talked a lot about the Warriors, but what do they need to keep doing, I guess, to
Yeah.
dominate the Cavs, as they kind of already are.
So I'll go back to what I said in the last podcast, where I said there were three. So basically, if you didn't hear the last show I did with Michael and Shrey, what I was saying is most Warriors losses are a combination of three main errors, right? The first thing is turning the ball over, and you saw that in Game 2 a lot. The Warriors were great in turnovers in Game 1. Only four tied the NBA record for fewest turnovers in a finals game. But in Game 2, the Warriors turned the ball over 20 times. A lot. Curry had six.
Eight.
He created 8 in the game. He had 6 in the first half alone. And you give the Cavaliers a lot of those extra opportunities. Because the thing is, if the Warriors and the Cavs just play possession by possession, at some point the Warriors will overpower them. So the Cavs, they need those extra possessions. So they get those through turnovers and then also through offensive rebounding, which was my second key. So for the Warriors, it's boxing out. It's, waiting till you secure the rebound before you try to start out your fast breaks. Trying to limit Tristan Thompson and LeBron James and Kevin Love, their effect on the glass. So those are the first two: turnovers and defensive rebounding. And then the third, of course, continuing to find your shooters, continuing to knock down shots. So those are the three main keys. And really, like I was saying, the Warriors have to beat themselves. So as long as the Warriors can stick to their game plan and execute, the Cavs, there won't be much they can do about it.
But you got to admit, this 2-0 lead seems a lot safer than last year's.
It does. Again, for a lot of those things that we've said, no suspensions, no injuries. The Cavs are a great team, and you can't underestimate a LeBron James-led basketball team. But it just feels like this year they just don't have it. You see him tired. You see LeBron James, angry, kind of argumentative in the locker room. Not really responding to some of the questions that he's being given. He just seems rattled. The team around him has not been able to step it up. So right now it feels like it's definitely the Warriors series to lose.
In Game 3, we better see all three of those guys, LeBron, Kevin Love, and Kyrie, come out firing. I also think maybe give J.R. Smith a little more room to shoot. Like maybe give him 10 shots regardless and see if he can find his rhythm.
Yeah, you need him to get hot.
Yeah, also maybe give Kyle Korver 8 to 10 shots.
You need guys to get hot. I mean, that's what's going to come down to. You need more guys than just LeBron James and just Kevin Love. You need everyone to come together. You need good passing, good ball movement. You need the shots to go down. And then, again, you got to find some way to cover the guys on defense. So we both think the Warriors are big favorites to win the series in 5 games or even less. But how big favorites are they exactly? So that's when we move into the second part of our show, a game I like to call What Are the Odds? I'm going to give a scenario or a situation, and we're going to debate what the odds are of that coming true. So first off, we both said the Warriors are favorites to win it in 5, but what odds would you place on the Cavs coming back to win the series?
Oh man, it's got to be like 5 to 10%. I can't see them coming back unless someone gets injured on the Warriors. Like some major contributor gets like injured or gets like really hurt or just starts being terrible. Like because at the Warriors at their best or would beat anyone. Like the Cavs, even if they're playing at their best and the Warriors playing at their best, the Warriors are going to win because they have 4 All-Stars. The last 3 MVPs are all on the Warriors currently. And if they're all playing good, I don't see a way to stop them because there's just too many open holes to defend, right?
Right.
So 5 to 10%, and that's if LeBron starts like completely like ball dominant, like 50 points per game or some crazy thing, which he's done before.
Which the thing is, exactly, you need like, LeBron. Again, we were saying LeBron needs other people to get involved with him, but again, LeBron is going to need to have huge games. He's going to need to have some of these triple-doubles. One more triple-double will set the NBA record for most finals triple-doubles, but I'm sure he doesn't care about that. He just cares about winning. However, I don't think it's going to happen. You say 5 to 10%. I'm going to place it at about 5%. The Cavs' best chance at winning this series is to just take care of your games at home, win games 3, 4, and 6. It's a heck of a lot easier said than done. But to try to set up another Game 7 at Oracle and then have the Warriors in the back of their heads, the whole, all the things that happened last year, blowing a 3-1 lead and losing 2 games at home, another big Game 7, try to rattle the Warriors in some way to set it up where you can, come from behind spectacularly again. But I don't think it's very likely. I think it's at 5%. What I think the odds are a little higher of, alternatively, is the Warriors sweeping. Now, if the Warriors win this series 4-0, they will have swept through the entire playoffs, the Trailblazers, the Jazz, the Spurs, and then finally the Cavaliers. We haven't seen anything like it before, but it seems increasingly likely now. We're only 2 games away. So what odds would you place on the Warriors winning both games 3 and 4 and then sweeping the finals?
I'd have to say 25 to 30% because I don't see the Warriors. Like, if you look at the early line for Wednesday's game, the Warriors are actually favored in Quicken Loans Arena by 3 points. So Vegas clearly thinks that a sweep is pretty possible.
Right, but wouldn't you have to agree, though?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I actually think they have a pretty good chance of winning Game 3 and Game 4, so that's why I'm giving it 25-30%, assuming they're 50-50 to win both, 25% chance to win both. So
yeah, and I think, again, I'm in a similar ballpark. If you said they were 50-50 to win both games, it'd be about 25%. I actually think the Warriors correctly are favored by Vegas. And I think they should be favorites to win both those games. If they were 60% favorites to win both, that'd put them at 36% to sweep the series. That feels a bit high to me. I'm going to say 33%, about 1 in 3.
I can get behind that number.
Yeah. And then moving on to our third topic for what are the odds. Let's talk about the MVP of the series. Right now, I think it's pretty clear through the first 2 games. Like, you'd have to agree that Kevin Durant is the finals MVP.
Yeah, I'd put the chances that KD wins the MVP probably about the same chances the Warriors winning the series. So 95%?
95?
90%?
I won't go quite as high. Right now, I'll say about 80%.
So who else are you considering, Steph?
Right. So there's only 3 guys that can possibly win the MVP in this series. It's either Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, or if LeBron James manages to win the series somehow, it's going to be LeBron James.
If the Cavs win the series, LeBron deserves it.
I'll give
there's no way.
So I'll give LeBron that 5% that I said that the Cavs will have a winning the series. That leaves 95%. Right now, I think it's pretty clearly Kevin Durant. I think the fact that he's been matched up a lot with LeBron on both sides of the ball, and he's been able to prevent the Cavaliers from really exploding, and he's been able to have fantastic games himself. He had the 38, 8-8 in Game 1. He had, I don't remember his exact point total, but
33. Yeah, 33.
33.
13-6.
13-6 to go along with
5 blocks and 3 steals.
There you go, 5 blocks, 3 steals. He's been the best player on the floor in both games, in my opinion. Even though Curry and LeBron dropped triple doubles in Game 2, he's been the best player in both games. He has to be the favorite to continue doing so. It almost feels like this is a special series for Kevin Durant. Curry's already got a ring. LeBron's already got a ring. Kevin Durant does not have any championships. He lost to LeBron in his only previous opportunity in 2012. I just feel like he's playing with such passion and he's so locked in and focused that he has to be the overwhelming favorite. But I'll still give the last 15% to Curry because Curry has also had 2 very good games. His Game 2, even though he had a triple-double, it was a little sloppy with the turnovers.
His first half was pretty not good, like 2 of 8 turnovers.
I mean, yeah, so he was a little sloppy in the early parts of Game 2 specifically, but he's still an MVP. He's still a 2-time MVP, and he's going to go off. And really, if Kevin Durant has an off game in Games 3 or 4, but Curry absolutely lights it up, drops like 40 points, 7-8 threes, which he's completely capable of doing, I think it'll make it a conversation. I don't think Curry should be anywhere near the favorite right now. I think that's Kevin Durant, but I think Curry is still in the conversation right now.
Yeah, I just want to say something about 2012. I think so. LeBron versus KD at that time was a little bit one-sided, with LeBron clearly being better. But I think people overstate how bad Durant actually was. I think LeBron averaged a solid 20, or KD rather averaged a solid 25 per game. Granted, it wasn't as great as LeBron was because LeBron obviously played better, and they obviously won 4-1.
Yeah.
4-1. So. Yeah, but Kevin Durant wasn't too bad, and Steph Curry last year, he was worse than 2015, but he still wasn't too bad. 22, 21 points off 40% shooting.
No, Kevin Durant actually, he was pretty good in those finals in 2012. again, a lot of people look at the 4-1 and they'll say, oh, Kevin Durant must not have shown up. But that's really not true because Kevin Durant had 25 points, at least in all of those games. He became only the fourth player in NBA history to drop 25 points or more in his first 6 finals games. That was following game 1 of this series. So he's actually been really good.
It was actually my boy Harden who came a little bit empty of that
just a bit
series.
Short, and then that sent him over to Houston.
Yeah.
All right. So again, we both agree Kevin Durant's a strong favorite to win the MVP. But then our last part of the show, talking about the Warriors and Cavs, they've played each other in the finals in 2015, 2016, and 2017. What are the odds, do you think, that they'll face each other again in 2018?
So this year's offseason is actually really interesting for me because both, if the current salaries hold up, both the Cavs and the Warriors are way over the salary cap.
For sure.
$25 million and $33 million. It's kind of unbelievable. So it'll be very interesting to see who restructures their contract, who doesn't. If the Cavs end up winning this year, highly unlikely as that might be, people like Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala, twilight of their careers, will they take pay cuts to stay on a team that may or may not win the finals next year? Also, I think it's safe to say Kevin Durant will come back next year, and he also said he's willing to take less than the max. So that means that the core might stay intact because I believe they have Thompson and Green already under contract.
Yeah, I believe the Warriors' big four, I believe they're all going to stay intact.
However, they do want Curry to get that contract extension because and getting better pay because when they last signed Curry, he was dealing with knee injuries, knee issues, so they wanted to get a little bit of insurance, so they paid him a little less. It's clear now that being the fourth most paid player on the Warriors, that he might be the second best or first best.
I mean, Steph Curry is the most underpaid player in the league right now, and he's only making about $12 million. That's going to double at least. The thing is, if the Warriors don't win the finals this year, it will be interesting if they're going to be able to bring in those free agents at reduced salaries. Same goes for the Cavs, really. Whoever loses this series might have some troubles finding guys to bring in to fill in their salary caps.
Although me personally, I actually think the Cavs might have a little bit of a better shot at retaining some people because they have LeBron James on their team. Like, people want to play with him, right?
Right.
Like, they've exhibited that over the course of however many years that he's been recruiting people.
I mean, he's got guys like James Jones who just follow him. James Jones is also playing in his 7th straight finals.
Yeah. Somehow nobody talks about him, though. I wonder why.
It's kind of funny. But to go back to the question, the Warriors, I think their main competition next year is going to be the Spurs. But I feel like the Warriors have to beat. And it sounds
if Chris
ridiculous.
Paul goes to the Spurs, that could be a very interesting matchup because LaMarcus Aldridge, he doesn't really like playing in the post all that much, but with the pick and pop system that Chris Paul can support, LaMarcus Aldridge might get a little bit of a boost, and of course Kawhi's Kawhi, so he's a perennial top 5 player in the NBA.
I'm still going to have the Warriors at, this might even be a low number, but let's say they're 80% to win the West next year, in my opinion.
I agree, actually.
Okay, so about 80%. So on the Cavs side, it gets a little more interesting with the Celtics. I think they can be emerging. I'm thinking for the Cavaliers to win the East next year, it's kind of tough because you don't know who's going to emerge. You have the team like the Celtics really stepped it up this year.
Honestly,
you have teams with potential like the Raptors.
Yeah.
What number would you pick on the Cavaliers?
For Cavaliers, if Gordon Hayward or any of the other marquee small forwards in the market, rumored free agents on the market like Paul George and Jimmy Butler, if they don't go to the Celtics, the Cavs are gonna get there. I think it's gonna be 90-95%. However, if they get a marquee small forward like Gordon Hayward, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, and Markelle Fultz or Lonzo Ball, theoretically, depending on who gets their point guard, then it starts to get a little bit interesting. I'd probably reduce it down to 80, but if they keep their core intact, LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love, and maybe Tristan Thompson, if you keep that core intact, I don't see that team losing.
So I'm not quite as confident in the Cavs just because LeBron James is aging. He'll be 33 in December, so you won't know. At some point, his body, believe it or not, will start to decline. We don't really know when that will be, and we haven't seen signs of it yet.
Yeah.
But at some point it'll happen, and the Celtics are the future. I still believe the Raptors have a shot at doing something. They got to be angry seeing how this year ended up for them. And then So I guess I'm going to go a bit lower. I'm going to put the Cavs odds at making the finals next year at about 70 to 75%, which is a little lower than you. But I think if we say the Warriors are about 80% odds, and that might even be low as well, and we'll put the Cavs, you say a little higher than 80, and I'll say a little lower than 80. So we'll come together and say 80 on that.
Yeah.
That would make it a 64% likely scenario that the Warriors and the Cavs play each other for their fourth time in the finals. Does that seem about right to you? Or
I think so. With regards to the Raptors, I mean, they definitely did an upgrade on their front court to stop LeBron, right? And Kevin Love. Because their backcourt is solid. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, even though Kyle Lowry had some injury issues and he wasn't that good in the playoffs. But they need front court help to stop LeBron. Because the way I see it, Indiana and Toronto couldn't stop LeBron in the front court as much. Well, Paul George was all right.
Indiana was interesting because Indiana played those 4 games really close, but they just happened to lose all 4 games.
Yeah, maybe Paul George isn't as clutch as he thought. He thinks.
I mean, maybe not, but I mean, who can really fault him? Who else does Paul George have on that team?
Jeff Teague and Monte Ellis aren't terrible.
Are they going to win the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of wrap this up, let's wrap up our segment of what are the odds. Cavs coming back to win the series, we'll put it at between 5 and 10%. We'll put a Warriors sweep at around 30-ish percent.
30%.
Kevin Durant winning the MVP, 80-ish percent, and then
80,
a Warriors Cavs finals next year at something like 60%. It could be a little higher or a little lower depending on what happens in free agency. But
I'm looking at the Celtics and Spurs as contenders.
I mean,
right
those
now.
are the main contenders for sure, and then.
I'm obligated to mention the Rockets.
Well,
because
yeah. I mean, they got a shot.
They had a good season.
They beat the Warriors this year. I mean, they have a chance at.
Hey, whenever the shots fall, they'll put up 130.
That's true, but you can beat the Warriors one time, but can you beat the Warriors 4 times?
Yeah, that's the real question.
That's the real question. But I think that's about all we have time for on the show today. Thanks, Rish, for coming along, and I think it's been fun.
I had fun, that's for sure.
Yep, definitely. And then, so this podcast, this will be going up on YouTube and the Top Level Sports website. You can find that at toplevelsports.net. You can also follow Top Level Sports on Facebook, facebook.com/toplevelsports, and twitter.com/toplevelsports. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you can like and subscribe to the video if you enjoyed it. And then I'll see you again next time. Peace.